Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and an important weekly close coming up in just a little bit. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. So, on this channel, we really like discussing weekly closes. I do believe they are fairly important. We've talked about how important they are for holding the line at the 20-week SMA to maintain the security of the bull market, or at least the confidence in the bull market and whatnot. And we can even see that as we've mentioned, Bitcoin bounced right off of that 20-week SMA, and it's propelled it to very close to reaching new all-time highs. Okay, but I want to talk about why this weekly close is somewhat important. If you look at the valuation of Bitcoin right now, we're at 61.2K. Okay, the highest weekly close that Bitcoin has ever, is at 59,975. 59,975. So just shy of a very modest $60,000. Now, could we? First of all, I should say that weekly close is going to be very dependent on the exchange you use. On some exchanges, it might be slightly higher than that. On some, it'll be slightly lower. But more or less, the highest weekly close ever is 59,975, plus or minus, a few dollars depending on what exchange you use. Bitcoin right now is above that. So if Bitcoin closes this week above that level, then we have officially put in the highest weekly close that Bitcoin has ever seen, which even provides more evidence, in my opinion, that the market cycle peak was not 64K. Now that the valuation of Bitcoin has already gone back to 63K, it certainly does provide overwhelming evidence that 64K is not the market cycle peak. But even if we don't reach 64K by the weekly close, having a weekly close higher than the prior weekly close, I think that's incredibly bullish. And again, it's just a matter of time before we break through new all-time highs. For the way I see it, worst case scenario would be a short-term rejection. Okay, where we maybe go up to the all-time high or just below it. We get rejected for a couple weeks, and then maybe we go back up and break through it. I want to draw your attention to some. If we take this pattern, it's actually been following it fairly closely. Not exactly, but something to keep in mind is this pattern here that we watched play out earlier in the year, and it's actually been playing out really closely again. Okay, now the pullback this time wasn't as bad. Okay, during this phase over here, but you can see it's pretty much on the same track that it was back when it had a major move in July. Okay, so we had that move in July from 29K all the way up to just below 53K. This move started at around 40K or so, and it's already moved up fairly similarly to the last move. Okay, and if it were to continue to play out like the last move, it would imply that within a couple days, Bitcoin could break its prior all-time high, maybe within 2 or 3 days, if it were to continue to play out like that. And if it continues to play out beyond that, then by November 1st, we could be looking at a valuation of around $70,000, and that's only a couple weeks away. We could be looking at a $70,000 Bitcoin if this continues to play out in the same manner. And then if it continues to play out, which again, it probably won't play out exactly as it already hasn't played out exactly. We didn't even have a massive, a significant pullback. If we had a pullback, it would have implied going to 59K and then dropping all the way down to 51K or 52K, which, that hasn't happened. If it continued to play out, then it could imply going all the way up to 73, 74, maybe just below 75K before getting a correction back down to below 60K. I don't know. I think this is an interesting pattern to watch out for. Of course, I don't think it's going to play out exactly like this, but what it does show is that there are people that say it's moving up too quickly and it cannot be sustained. And I would agree it cannot move up this quickly forever. We also know that the price can, if history is an indication, it can trend higher before getting a pullback. It certainly can. And just because you feel like it's moving up too quickly to make sense doesn't mean it can't just continue doing that same thing, because that's what it did over here. It went from 29K all the way to 53K without really stopping much. It hesitated a little bit for a couple days here and there, but it more or less just kept trending higher. And you're seeing something like that play out again this month. And I actually think there's a fairly high probability that the valuation will ultimately take out the prior all-time high. If we get a correction before then, so be it. A lot of these things I don't really think matter that much. A lot of people stress out about, okay, are we going to get a 5 or 10% correction? It just doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if we get a 5% correction or a 10% correction from here, or if we get one at 65K or 70K, 70, I don't really think it matters that much. I think that people are stressing over things that are somewhat inconsequential and that no one can accurately predict anyways, and that if you believe in the long-term vision of Bitcoin that it's going to trend higher with time, and you recognize that there will be pullbacks along the way, I don't really think it makes a whole lot of difference. Some of the things I also want to talk about, keep it on the 20-day. It's moving up relatively quickly. It's already approaching $53,000. So in the event of a pullback at some point, that would be the area to watch. We didn't even make it to it there. We sort of bounced off of it there. We had some bounces over here as well. So as this continues to move up, if Bitcoin continues to move up and then gets a pullback, that might be an area to watch for a bounce wherever that ends up being. And of course that price, that 20-day SMA by the time we actually pull back to it could be a lot higher than it currently is. The 200-day SMA, which some people use as an indicator of whether things are bullish or bearish, we're well above the 200-day right now because the 200-day is only at $45,000 and it's more or less just flat right now, okay? So that metric, it looks like Bitcoin is relatively bullish. We're obviously above a lot of consequential moving averages, the 50-day, the 20-day, the 100-day, and the 200-day. If you go look at weekly moving averages, we're above all of those as well. There's the 200-week, which we're significantly above. That's at 16.4K. I don't think we're going into the 200-week SMA for quite a long period of time. I certainly don't think we're going to go back to the 200-week in 2021. It's possible that it happens in 2022, certainly. If it were to happen in 2022, I would speculate probably at the very end of the year. But it could also be as far out as maybe 2023 or something before we go back to the 200-week SMA. And I would speculate that by the time we do go back to the 200-week SMA, it's probably going to be a lot higher than where the 200-week SMA is today. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We were able to hold support at the 50-week. We bounced off the 20-week and the 50-week over here. I would say Bitcoin looks relatively bullish. We just have to take out this area right here. I'd like to remind you we do have the premium list. The prices are going up on Monday, so if you have not signed up and you want to lock in the low rate, make sure you do so before Monday, and you can keep that rate. You'll get access to weekly reports and videos, etc. Okay, so to sort of summarize where we are, Bitcoin, again, we're trading at 62K. We're just shy of the prior all-time high. We said to expect some resistance in this area, and we have been getting some, right? If we go look at the daily time frame, we certainly have hesitated a little bit as we've been approaching these valuations. But in all honesty, we took out peak 1, 2, and we took out peak 3 here. We're actually trading right around where it was. We took them all out relatively easily, a lot easier than you might have expected. But here we are trading at just below 61.2K. The only final peak that we have left to take out is in fact the market valuation of 64.8K, that the local top that we had back in April of 2021. And I've said all along, I don't think that's a market cycle top. And I think that there certainly are some bears that are saying that sort of the last chance that they're saying is a double top, and it's ultimately just going to come back down. And while I would admit there's always a chance that it could get rejected in the short term, I don't think it's gonna be a double top by any stretch of the imagination. I think that we will prevail and break through it. It's just a matter of time, whether it happens immediately or if we get a correction first and then break through it. I still think it's just a matter of time before it happens. Historically, when Bitcoin rallies to prior all-time highs, it can spend a little while getting through it, but you don't really often see a rally to a prior all-time high and then a 2-year bear market accumulation phase after, right? Like we eventually break it. You just have to give it a couple weeks, right? Back over in late 2020, it took us a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks to break through the prior all-time high. And so that's why I'm saying go in with conservative expectations, with the expectation that, hey, it could take a couple of weeks, or it could take a few weeks for this to happen. And if it happens sooner, so be it. I ultimately think the rest is nothing more than noise, to be completely honest. So we'll keep an eye on Bitcoin. Again, I'd say it looks relatively bullish, and I do believe it will continuing to trend up with time. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Remember to keep an eye out on the weekly close. Ideally, we would like to see it close above 50. We'd ideally like to see it close above a very modest 59,975. 59,975. And actually, if you go look at this on the 2-week moving average, we are well above those, but we still have another week before we'll know if we're going to close above that. In order to close above the highest 2-week candle close, we need to close higher than, again, 59,975. So we have 7 more days for that. Lots of things are going for Bitcoin right now. I think it's just a matter of time. September looks like a higher low to me, already putting in a higher high. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. We also do the premium list again, intothecryptoverse.com. Make sure you lock in the low rate by Monday. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.